Good afternoon, evening, or morning, depending on where you are. Hi, everybody. And I see lots of fun people here already. This is great. Hey, Christopher. And Kathy's here. And oh my God, Howard. Oh, great. Awesome. Good you could join us. Hey, Carrie. Joel. Oh boy, Donna. I've got the whole crew here. This is great. Well, I have some really fun, exciting things to share with you guys. And it was an amazing conference. It was really great. Christopher was there with me, and actually did a an interview with him, which I have not published yet, but I will publish that, and very exciting. So before we get going, let me just put the chat over here on the side. I want to make sure everybody able to hear me okay? Somebody put something in the chat or raise your hand. Okay, Louise says yes. Okay, great, awesome. That's the most important thing. And sometimes I'm talking to myself, never know. Okay, well, I'm going to jump right into this because I've got some really exciting things to share and tell you guys a little bit about. Hey, Rich, I'm happy to see you. Great, awesome. This is really fun.
See you, Don.
So, um, people are joining in. I see they're piling in here, and yeah, I have room for 100 people live, but we had 350 people register. So we'll just see, everybody will be piling in and we'll get up to 100 and the rest will get the recording, I'm sure. But that's great. Okay. Robbie, hey, all right. Hey, you got my email, yeah? I just sent you an email. Awesome. This is great, you guys. I'm really excited to see everybody here. So I'm going to share my screen and I've got a little PowerPoint presentation to do here. And I think, let's see, I think I'll just do it this way. I'll go right to PowerPoint and start from the beginning. So, this is the Tesla Tech conference that I went to in Albuquerque, New Mexico. This was in August, and I haven't been for a few years. I've gone to these before, and it's kind of there are two conferences that have been really good for me. One is the United States Psychotronics Association meeting, and that they don't do live conferences since COVID. They haven't anyway. And of course, I've spoken at those almost every year for many, many, many years. Um, I think the first one we spoke at was like I found the recording of it. It was kind of fun. Um, 1990, I want to say 1992 was the first one that we did. And back in that day, amazing people came to these things. I mean, spoke at them, and we got to hang out with people like Tom Bearden and Marcel Vogel, Bob Beck, Eldon Bird. I mean, we got to hang out with all these amazing people. And so same thing with the Tesla Tech. There are some phenomenal people that that come to these, and I just love to hang out with these people and exchange ideas. So I saw that some of the people that we're going to see this was the room that we were in. They were just getting things kind of set up, and they asked not to take any pictures or videos. So I just sort of snapped this one before everything got really going so we could see the room so I'd have something to show people. But there were a bunch more tables behind me and the whole place was packed. It was great. I don't know how many it held, but there were a couple hundred people there at least. Very nice venue, well done. And oh yeah, before we get going, this is my medical content thing. I will be talking about some health related subjects, and I'm doing this for experimental research only, for informational use only. And by using this information, if you go down any of these pathways and get any of the equipment or anything, um, this is just for for your information. So it's not to diagnose or treat any actual medical problems, although some of the stuff I talk about will, you know, there's some pretty interesting stuff here. So we'll just leave it at that. But this is just what I'm doing. So this was the lineup of people, a lot of great speakers, and I can't cover all of these people, obviously. And I really want to talk about the things that really hit home for me. And I will go through it just to, you know, highlight a few different things. But some amazing people, you know, amazing people. And really the reason, I will tell you the reason that I even wanted to go down there was Ilona Selke is my wife, and she was approached by somebody through one of her network to get a hydrogen water infuser. And it was a multi-level marketing company, and they wanted her to sign up, of course, and sell these things, and um, which is good. I mean, we've been in the water filter business for 40 years, 35, 40 years, and not in that business so much, but we were in a multi-level marketing company called Multipure, which has been a great company and a great filter. And we're still part of that, and we still get downline checks, although we don't really actively market so much anymore. But but they are great filters, and so she kind of thought that might go along with uh, you know, with the water thing and maybe kind of get back involved in it. And I said, well, let me do some research on that. And uh, that's when I came across George Wiseman's work. I mean, in terms of I've known about Brown's gas. That's what he's up here in the upper right-hand corner, George Wiseman. And I'm going to go into depth about his stuff because um, hydrogen, you know, hydrogen's great. And don't get me wrong, infusing water with hydrogen from all the research I did do was really pretty amazing stuff. But Brown's gas, when I get into it, you'll see it. It's like, you know, hydrogen on steroids. I mean, it's just amazing. And he's done the real hardcore research on it and got a million testimonials on it. So I'm gonna go through that more in depth. Um, and oh, Penny Kelly, she was awesome down here in the lower middle left. She she's the real deal in terms of like a psychic kind of thing. She did the hardcore research in testing psychic abilities and great talk. And you guys can watch all of these. They do have them available, and I'll give you that link where you can go through and watch these. They've got the whole, all of these together now for $99, which I thought was just a great deal and really amazing. So um, let's see who else is in here. That was really awesome. Um, well, I'll highlight a couple of the guys, but um, John Fiala did something on the Roden coil, and I knew Mark Roden again back way back in the 90s. Um, and uh, yeah, I loved Michael's work over here. Michael, I can't Claridge, I think his name is, on astrophysics, but he was also going along into the electric universe, and that was a really great talk, which I'll pull that up here in a second. So Maury King, I've known Maury since I want to say 1989. Uh, and we used to sit together in uh, physics and think tanks on, he's a theoretical quantum physicist, is really his background and what he got his doctorate in. And we used to sit in think tanks together with people like, um, who all was in there? Well, Dr. Rod Newton was in there. Maury King, of course, my wife Ilona Selke, um, Dr. Wolf, Vernon Wolf was the one that kind of was the spearhead. He has uh, 4 PhDs, and so these guys sitting in there, I felt a little bit like, you know, we were really young. Ilona and I were really young, and we were sitting around these super geniuses, right? And I was hoping they'd rub off on me because I didn't feel like I was quite at their level of of this level of genius. Although I did find that we were able to actually, once you get in a flow of it, you can actually add things in it, and it kind of works more like this rather than it wasn't like lectures. We were all just brainstorming and think tanking about how the world works and how we could get um, to the next level of not only technology but consciousness and technology and how that work together. Really amazing stuff. Anyway, so I've known Maury since like '89, I think, is the first time we met. And his talk was about zero point energy, which was I in this particular case, what he was talking about it for was free energy, basically, and why we don't have free energy machines out there, um, and where the inventors have gone. And he did a really great job of explaining. Um, okay, there are two aspects of it. One of it was where people kind of lucked into it, or they actually understood it, and then what happened with these uh, quote unquote free energy machines. And so he went through all these different inventors and showed their patents, and some of them were pretty simple, some were very complicated, and part of it is that they never really put all the information into the patents because they want to keep the secret to themselves, and so they kind of do things, a little bit sideways. So nobody really figures out exactly what they did. And it takes somebody's as smart as Maury to really kind of look at it and go, well, they're probably leaving out this part or this part. So he did a great job of, I don't know how many inventors he went through, but I'll bet there were a dozen inventors that have cracked the code on free energy machines. And why are they not in the market? Well, I think we all know that the oil companies have kind of stopped that. Uh, from happening. Although it still's coming, I think. I just found this one on the internet 2, 3 days ago, and this company, um, gosh, I think they're in Portugal, is where this came from, and they seem to have had they can mass produce these little free energy type machines up to like 20 or 40 kilowatts. I mean, pretty big things. That once they get them going, they don't need to, they don't need any fuel, so they just continually then produce energy. We'll see if it ever gets on the market. But this was on kind of normal news stuff, and I just found it 2 days ago. That's pretty interesting. So anyway, Maury really went into depth on a lot of these patents, and a lot of it does kind of hinge on Tesla, which is this whole conference at least leans the direction from Tesla. Russell, I've known Russell again for, gosh, I think, yeah, 25 years probably. And he's been doing some great work. He builds actually some little anti-gravity devices that you can buy. They're electrostatic, so some people say it's not quite anti-gravity as such, but they do float around. They're kind of the principles of what he goes into UFOs and how they most likely work, and some of the experiments and how he's been able to build these things. He'll build them for people and make them, and then you can fly them around and stuff. They're pretty cool. Um, but Russell, yeah, I've known Russell for at least 25 years. That was great to catch up with him. And of course, um, my wife Ilona Selke was on the Prophet Conference tours back in the late '90s, early 2000s, with Greg Braden and a lot of great people, Barbara Marks Hubbard, um, Gene Houston, a lot of these amazing speakers. And we all hit it off back in the beginning. And of course, we went to many of these conferences. It was before Greg was so famous, let's put it that way. Um, and we haven't been able to catch up for quite a while. So at the conference, we snuck off in the morning, the last day before, on the last day of the conference, we snuck off and found a little quiet place to have breakfast and got caught up. And I don't know if you know this, but Greg's an amazing musician. I mean, he's a great musician. He doesn't let that side out. He said kind of interesting. He said the publishers don't like that authors are musicians. So he's never really pushed that part of himself out. But him and his wife both are amazing musicians. And so he's got his own recording studio and really is into music, and so I told him, I shared with him my uh, that I got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year with my band from 45 years ago, and sent him the video on that. And if anybody wants that video, I can send that link out. Maybe I'll put it in the next newsletter and send that around. But we had just a blast getting all back together after 45 years, and I think we sounded pretty good. I mean, for 70-year-olds. But anyway, Greg is a really great musician too, and that's his one of his passions. But real up there like that. So we have a lot in common, and it was just really great to get back together and share some time together. And of course, his talk was phenomenal. So what Greg talked about, which in this particular talk, and maybe he's shared some of this in some of his other like Gaia talks. Or I'm not really sure. I haven't watched all of his different things. He's got so many videos out there now. But he talked about the what we're going through, what appears to be going through on a planetary level, not planetary like cosmic, but planetary in terms of like governments and all these different power struggles and wars and um, you know economy. There's a lot going on right now, right? I mean, everybody feels this kind of tension. And he took it to the next level to say, no, this is not something new. This goes back thousands of years. And it's basically a, what I want to call, I would call it a multi-dimensional war. He kind of puts it, kind of frames it between, you could say good and evil, but not really good and evil. But the it's a vying for power over our planet. And so he brings in the extraterrestrial aspect of it, um, the draconian energies or beings or whatever. Um, and it's kind of the plus and minus. You could see it as good and evil, but it's basically factions of beings that are vying for control of planet Earth. It was very deep. I mean, it was really amazing. Really amazing. I mean, just great stuff. And of course, he's just so uh, personable. I mean, his talk was just so great, really awesome. And then James Sorensen talked about the electric universe. Now, the electric universe, this is really close to heart for me because, um, you know, we think that everybody in the astrophysics and uh, in the scientific world has been trying to frame everything as gravitational, that we live in a gravitational universe, which obviously there's gravity. I'm not saying that gravity doesn't exist, um, but that gravity is basically a side effect of an electric universe. These attraction charges and repelling charges and things like that. And so when you go into the physics of it, approaching it from an electrical point of view, all the math works. Everything works. It all works. You don't have to make up dark matter. You don't have to make up all these things. They make stuff up to try to fit into a gravitational model. They have to make up a tremendous amount of um, stuff. And then they keep trying to make formulas to fit into that, right? But when you use the electrical concepts, everything just works. It just fits. Everything fits. You can do all the math. Everything works, according to James. So that's something I would definitely do a little more of a deep dive into, and really awesome. Great stuff. So here's where you can actually download this the entire talk. Tesla Tech. Just click down here on the bottom. It's at teslatech.info, and it's 99 bucks. You can get all of these things. I mean, just phenomenal. Great stuff. And of course, they have the conference every year. If you sign up in advance, you save like 30-40%, I think, on the entrance fee. And uh, it goes, early birds get a better deal. Let's put it that way. It keeps kind of going down toward the end of the conference, when beginning of the conference, then it costs more. But so anyway, that's the Tesla Tech. So the first thing I want to share with you was Joseph Ence. Um, he brought a little device which I was totally fascinated by, and I'm going to show you because I ended up buying one. Um, and it's an ultrasound, a portable ultrasound device where you can actually look inside the body. And his specialty is looking at the main artery up here in the neck. And this was a little model of looking down into, it's a plastic model of looking down in the artery to see the plaque that builds up and how it restricts the blood flow. And then he's been working with another doctor, Dr. Hunt, I believe his name is, um, and uh, their companies kind of work together after doing an analysis at their lab. Then a lot of people go uh,
Who?
to Dr. Hunt,
Who?
and then his he's been helping people to like mitigate whatever problems they have by looking into these arteries. I think said he had 1,500 patients. I talked with him not too long ago, the doctor, and he's had 1,500 patients over the last, I think he said 10 years, 10 years, 1,500 patients, and he's had not had one heart attack or a stroke in that time period. And he's gotten some really difficult cases that were just plugged up. I mean, these people were plugged up to begin with. And so he helps them through diet, and he does use some pharmaceuticals when absolutely necessary, some statins, I think he said, but um, but generally he works with diet. And what Joseph said is like when you see what's going on in your own uh, arteries, and you even print it out, put that picture on your refrigerator, um, it can make a huge difference in you taking action to do something about it. And so I'm gonna I'm gonna show you this thing, and then I'll go through a couple of reports that I did on a couple people. One thing I really liked was the ability to see the biological age. I'm going to switch over here to my other camera. Yep, got it. Okay, so this is called the butterfly, and it is let's see if I can get there. It's a portable ultrasound unit, and I will switch back and forth here a little bit so you can see. Um, but let's see if I can see this. Yeah, so I'm gonna put some gel on it, which it's a conductive kind of gel, so you can see stuff. And then I think you guys can see this okay. Now I'm gonna put this on my neck, and maybe I can get a little closer so you can get it up there. Okay, so so you see that little round thing right there. That's my artery. That little hole, the black hole in the middle, right? And there's not much in there, which is cool. There's just a little tiny white thing in the bottom. You can actually see my heart beating there, right? Now, if I turn it sideways, let's see if I can get this. There we go. Then you get the length of the artery. So that long black line there is, I think you guys can see that. Yeah. That long black hole is the artery itself. And again, it's basically there's not much in there. It's all open. There's nothing in there. So if there are some cloudy kind of things, there is a little tiny plaque at the very bottom, one little white spot. And so this is just really cool. I'm going to just now switch back my camera here and show you how this works. So basically, I was just going like this, right? And then I find that artery, and I can see it now in the camera. And then I just turn it sideways, and that's when then you can go up and down and see the entire main artery there. Very cool. Anyway, I was totally fascinated by this, and so I spent a lot of time with Joseph at the conference. That's the one nice thing about these conferences is that you can hang out with these people, and that's how I got to know a lot of these people. Um, Back in the day, a lot of these amazing scientists were was hanging out at these conferences. So I highly recommend them if you can get to any of these conferences. Okay, so um, there we go. We're back on Joseph. So this is the butterfly, and I did the demo already. Okay, just so you guys know, these are not inexpensive little things. They're about $5,000. But compared to his ultrasound machine, the one that the clinical one that he was doing, they were 30,000. So I guess maybe that was part of a little bit of it. He wasn't really selling these, but he sells the service. And so what their company does is once you've done your analysis, it records everything. So you record all this on the phone, on the app, and then it uploads to their service, and you get this report. And one thing I really liked was being able to see the vascular age versus the physical age. Now, this particular person was a female, and it's she's had some problems. I knew she had problems. That's why I wanted to test and see what was going on. Um, she's only 34 years old, but her vascular age was 43. And so if you look down here at the uh, carotid intima media thickness test, that's one of the main things that they can tell how healthy the person is in terms of their arteries and blood flow and all that. She was really up here, almost at the, at the extreme into the high level. So anyway, that's something that now she's going to work on this, and then we'll test it again in another year or so, or 6 months, and see if there's some progress in that. These are the actual pictures. Um, and I don't know if you can see this, but up here, this is kind of all clouded in. Up here on the top where this top arrow is, there was a little bit of plaque. It's not really about plaque, but look how squeezed down. You saw how big mine was, right? It's like this open kind of hole, and this was pretty squeezed down. Yeah, there's a kind of a close up of it where you can see that. So anyway, you send the pictures to the lab, and they measure everything, and it's just great. I was just totally excited about all this. This is a little close up of those. Now here is another one. Now this is the opposite. This is another friend of mine, and he's 43 years old, and he has the vascular age of a 17-year-old. Just it was phenomenal. I'm like, going, okay, he's doing something right. So he's way down here on this carotid intima media thickness test. He's way down here almost at the bottom. And so this is how his look. Nice, open, and clean. There's just nothing in there. Um, they measure the thickness of everything, and it just looked great. So that was the first instrument that really caught my attention, and I thought it would be just a great thing to have, and mainly for myself, even though I'd had the test. But the thing is, you want to monitor this kind of thing over time. It's not something you just want to do one thing. And if you go to the doctor every time, it's whatever they charge. I don't know what they charge for ultrasound, but everything else is very expensive. So I figured I'd buy my own, and not only for my staff here in Bali, but my wife and I, then we can kind of monitor ourselves and see how we're doing. Oh, I didn't show you mine. Mine was very good. My physical age is 69, and my vascular age was 50, 57 or 58 or something like that. So I'm like 10 years below where my physical age is. Yeah, so let's talk about George. I'm gonna kind of go through some of the highlights of his talk because this was astounding, actually. It was astounding. He's just a character, and and he has a lot of scientific stuff. So some of this is a little deep. What I like to do is take the deep stuff and try to make it accessible for you guys, so it's understandable. And so I'm going to just hit some of these highlights. But we all know that we're mostly water, right? H2O. Uh, that's by weight. They say we're 70% water. But by volume, by atomic volume, he says that we're actually mostly hydrogen, which I thought was an interesting way to look at it. Not that it really means anything. Doesn't mean we're going to float away. Or anything, but here's the actual numbers. The percentages atomically were 62% hydrogen, and then oxygen and carbon. You know, they say we're carbon based, but that's really a very small amount. So I thought that was pretty fun. Just fun stuff, you know. But then we'll get into the details of this. Um, so basically, hydrogen is part of every chemical process in our body. Our DNA is built around it, which is the spine of the DNA is built around water. So hydrogen, you know, H2O, hydrogen is two atoms of hydrogen, and but hydrogen, he says, is our most important macronutrient. We actually need to absorb the hydrogen, and we get that mostly from our food. And he's going to go into that. So how do we get it? We breathe in air, and there's maybe a little bit of hydrogen in there, but not really. It's mostly nitrogen and oxygen. Um, but we get it from our food, and the bacteria in our guts breaks the hydrogen down um, from our hydrocarbon food, and and so that is how we then the acids break down our food and convert that, and we actually absorb the hydrogen. Um, but if there isn't enough hydrogen in the body shuts down, starts shutting down extraneous systems. We call that dis-ease, or the organs start shutting down, right? First the regeneration systems, and then the immune system, and then finally large organs will start to fail. So our bodies need hydrogen. Virtually all ailments are caused or exacerbated by the lack of hydrogen. Mostly from dehydration is why people get sick, aging, and dying, according to George. Um, we've killed off the bacteria, and he talks about that. How do we kill off bacteria? Antibiotics, you know, most everybody has taken antibiotics at some time or another in their life, and it does kill off the beneficial bacteria. That's why it's good, you know, to have, kefirs and kimchis and yogurts and all these different types of beneficial bacteria. We should always keep some of those going. Um, but the Brown's gas, now Brown's gas is very interesting gas. I will tell you about this. Um, how is it made? Um, Basically, it's electrically splitting the water. Okay, so we have two atoms of hydrogen, one of oxygen. They're bound together, and when that happens, we get water, right? But when you split them, it'll produce, normally if you just split it into hydrogen and oxygen, um, if you really split it completely, you would have pure oxygen and pure hydrogen, but that's not actually what happens. So with Brown's gas, it kind of creates this third gas, which we call sometimes called HHO. That's what I tend to call it. HHO, or hydroxy, is another word that people have used. Um, so Brown's gas, the guy that invented it or came up with this originally, was his name was Brown. So we always give him credit for that. I think his name was Eva Brown, I can't remember his first name. Um, but So when it splits it into the hydrogen and oxygen, it produces this odd gas. And when I say odd, now I have not tried this. I'll show you an experiment with it, but I'm not going to try this until I get somebody else to do it first. They say that what Brown's gas is good for is welding, for one, right? So it'll cut right through tungsten, they say, but it doesn't burn your hand. Okay. Now that's really strange to me. Um, and again, I have not tried this. I'll get somebody else to try it first, and then maybe I'll try it, but I'm not that brave. But I will light up the torch in a minute. Now, you see behind me, I have a little machine here, and we're going to fire that up in a couple minutes, and I'll show you how you can uh, uh, light up a welding torch with it. But people started he originally made them as welders, right? So he was making these welding devices for people out of Brown's gas. And then he got some reports back that people were drinking the water after it bubbles through the water, bubbles through a little bubbler back here. And then they were drinking that water and getting well. Somebody had healed themselves of cancer, and they attributed that to the Brown's gas. And so he started doing it, and more people started doing it, and it became a thing. So um, the other thing that he found out is I'm sure everybody's heard of this Kangen water or alkaline water. They even sell it in bottles now. Like in the airport, you know, you can buy regular water or you can buy alkaline water. Well, they thought that it was high alkalinity that was causing all the health benefits. And so they started doing some research on it, and George has proven now that it's not because of the pH. It's not the higher pH. So there are different ways to increase the pH of water. And one of those is through an electrolyzer like the Brown's gas instrument, right? Um, but these like Kangen water and all these different waters, they electrolyze the water. And so it was the electrical process that was shifting and increasing the hydrogen in the water, not because of the pH. And so they did an experiment and they therapeutically checked pH versus hydrogen. Here's the link for that. And it turns out that uh, the alkaline stream of water, after they've electrolyzed it, produces more hydrogen in the water. And when they kept the pH and the neutralized hydrogen, the health benefits, uh, so it's high pH water, but no hydrogen in it with another process, the health benefits disappeared. Very interesting. So basically, the pH of your body is maintained with bioavailable mineral reserves, and that acts as a buffer. So the pH, even if you drink high pH water, your stomach is so acid, it's it's it doesn't even make sense to put high pH water into your body. But there's so much acid in your stomach that it'll counteract it in seconds anyway. So it's not the pH, it's the hydrogen. And so here are some, just a little chart here about the um, different types of waters, and they've tested different healing, quote unquote, healing waters um, versus tap water. And the uh, Lord's water is one of those wells where they have this, you know, all these healing effects. Well, it turns out it has a huge amount of hydrogen in it. And so these come to the conclusion that it's the hydrogen that is cleaning healing the people from this magic water. Um, so he's not down on just hydrogen making instruments, which I think was good. Um, but when you do the Brown's gas, it just produces so much more hydrogen in the water. And it's not even pure hydrogen. It's not pure hydrogen as effect. It's this other what he calls easy water. We'll get into that in a minute here. I think I've got some information on that. So his personal experience, um, he started drinking the bubbled water in 2005, and he stopped getting sick in the winter. That was his first thing when people told him about it. Then people started telling him that they were inhaling it, and he thought they were absolutely insane. Um, I mean, it's an explosive gas, right? I mean, explosive, whatever you want to call it, but I mean, it's a volatile gas that you can burn. I guess oxygen is too, and we breathe that all the time. So it has to do with the amount of it. And so once he figured out, okay, well, maybe if you keep it under 4%, of course, that would be totally safe because it couldn't catch on fire or you know, explode, I guess is the big thing. Um, but so he started breathing it then too, because he was getting reports back from people that had been curing themselves of all kinds of things. So he had psoriasis on his elbows and knees and feet, and they peeled off after 3 weeks only, which was amazing. Um, and his libido increased within about 4 weeks, and he goes into a long story about how he lost his first wife and when he got remarried and so he thought this saved his life. Um, anyway, a lot of fun stories. He's also a very funny guy, but very serious. He also had a heart murmur disappear, which I thought was very interesting. His eyesight improved. He doesn't wear glasses anymore, except for maybe some reading glasses, he said. hand warts and left plantar's wart that he had since childhood. Took him 6 months for that to happen. So some of these things take longer. The neuropathies left, that took about 6 months, and arthritis in his hand disappeared after about 3 months. So he had a lot of personal experiences with this. Tinnitus reduced by 90%. That took 8 months. Scars have disappeared. That took about 8 months. His hair started coming back. Okay, he did take his hat off for a moment. I, I think, I think that one was a little bit exaggerated. Um, he had some hair up there, but mostly bald. Um, but he feels better and looks better than 20 years ago, and so he did show some pictures of himself, like from 20 years ago to now. And I must say, I have to say, he was the most vibrant, alive person at the conference, bar none. I mean, besides me. Okay, I'm kind of like this all the time. And and so when I'm interacting with people, it's like, oh, everybody's kind of, kind of low and slow and sleepy. Not everybody. I mean, Christopher was up there. He was great. Um, anyway, but of the speakers, certainly, and presenters and stuff, he was the most vibrant and alive and, healthy. You could see he just exuded health. Yeah. Other people have reported the increase of energy, alertness, strength, and balance. Um, he hasn't heard of anyone on pure hydrogen reporting loss of warts. So we're talking about just the hydrogen water makers, and nobody having scars heal. Amazing. So hydrogen by itself isn't enough. You need to have the energy, and the energy is what comes from the Brown's gas. This is, again, he kind of goes out there, and I don't know if he has any proof of this one. Um, talking about stem cell treatments that they're very expensive, but you can do it by reactivating your own stem cells, according to George, with the Brown's gas. Cool. Um, this is some skin cancer that was, disappeared. Now, interestingly, okay, I was having these little bumps on my head this summer, and they were kind of scaly. They weren't. I don't think they were cancer or anything, but I had been putting some. I thought they were fungus because when I was a little kid, I had something called infantago, I think is what it was. I remember being a young kid and they had to cut all my hair off and put this green goop on there because I'd gotten some kind of fungus. So I figured I was getting some little fungal things up there, and I'd put some antifungal cream on there for maybe about a month and didn't change anything. And so I got to watch his lecture, and after I got uh my device there, I thought, well, I don't have a shower cap, but I had a dive hat, for going for scuba diving. So I put my dive hat on and stuck the hose up there, and I did that maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 times for half an hour, and they all went away, right? So that was pretty amazing. I have to say that was astounding. And this kind of gave me the idea of that. Now, I never checked what I had, so I don't know that I don't think it was cancer. But nothing, it was nothing like this. It was just some little kind of bumpy things that would scale off. Here's another cancer one. Um, this person had given them their own machine because she only had a 26-year-old daughter-in-law, terminal breast cancer, um, and she's 100% cancer free, after 5 months. So, and then she bought her own. So some pretty astounding claims. Yeah. So let's go into, just what it is. The entire mixture of combustible gas generated from a machine specifically designed to electrolyze or split the water, not separate the waters, right? So this is the difference. So we're not splitting it completely into hydrogen and oxygen. We're creating like a third gas out of it, which he calls it electrically expanded water, or EXW. And um, so this Brown's gas contains water vapor, H2O. So there is still some H2O in it. There's H2O2, H and O. Oops, sorry. And this electrically expanded water. That's kind of how he describes it. That's the that's the magic part of the water. and it's a combustible gas form of water. Um, and he says that it's over unity. It produces more when you use the Faraday electrolysis equations. Um, there's more gas than what should be there according to the mathematics. I don't know how that would be provable, but according to him, um, it's a little bit over unity. So you get the water vapor, you get some monoatomic oxygen and monoatomic hydrogen, which is not supposed to happen, but they have found it in the spectrum analysis. And you get O2 as well, a little bit of diatomic oxygen and diatomic hydrogen. And then this is what he calls the expanded water. He puts it's HHO, but he put these extended lines on here because it's just a little different than normal water vapor. And here's the spectrum analysis of it. And you get some spikes in here. And so they've analyzed this stuff to find all this stuff. The O2 is 32%, H2O 18, O is 16, not supposed to be there, H is 1, and H2 is 2. That's pretty cool. He said the water vapor, like when you recondense this back together, the HHO gas, it does not come back into water. It doesn't become water. Very interesting. Um, Bodies heal themselves, electrons. Okay, the electrons in he thinks it's an electrical process. So the electrons in the expanded water are pure energy, and that's what we absorb. That's the key, right? This is the energy part of it, not just hydrogen. We get hydrogen from our food, but this expanded water is what he thinks it's full of electrons. These are other names for it. A lot of people have called it different things. Like we said, hydroxy gas, spirit gas. I've never heard of that one. Green gas. Um, these are all different names. Hydroxy was one that I kind of grew up with. I've known about this stuff for 20 years, 30 years at least. Stanley Myers had produced a water car, and it was based on Brown's gas. So that's where we got the word. That's when I knew about hydroxy. But he was doing some other things. Stanley Myers had produced a uh, Indianapolis 500 race car running on water and raced it in the race as a promo thing. He didn't win, but the car, was in there and running really well on water. And it says right on the side of the car, this car runs on water. He set up a manufacturing plant outside of Annapolis, Maryland, so that he could lobby the DC people, and try to get this licensed and get it on the market. And he mysteriously died. Um, but I did talk with one of the guys at the conference that has fully reproduced Stanley's work. And he worked together with another guy that was with, well, it was a team of people. It wasn't him by himself, but a very smart guy. I tell you, this guy was really smart. Um, but he worked together with somebody that had worked with Stanley on the original, building them and making them. And so eventually they were able to reproduce this. I don't know if they're going to bring it out or not. He didn't seem to confident about that at this point, but you never know. Um, but it has been replicated many times. But Stanley had a commercial version that was ready to produce cars. They had a full-on manufacturing plant. And that's where I got the word hydroxy or HHO back in the day. Um, Fish growth, it's great to bubble into your fish pond. Uh, the fish grew faster, but not bigger, 30% faster. That's amazing. Um, Amazing. So here is George's website, Brown's Gas for Health, eagle-research.com. Of course, I'm going to take you to my website when we're done here. Um, but I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But I love George. I just think it's great. Um, and I'll tell you how I ended up with this machine. This is not George's machine behind me. Um, I have one of George's machines, and it's awesome. But we'll go into that in a minute after we do a demo. I have a little movie that I made for you guys. Now I have to check this and make sure that I have my audio on so you can hear this. Um, where is this? Mm, I'm going to turn it off for a second and make sure you guys get my sound because I'm not sure. I know you have to go to some advanced sharing options. Well, maybe it's on. Ah, here, share sound. There we go. Okay, share. All right. So I made this little video. I've been having some fun with AI and artificial intelligence. So I had AI analyze George's talk, right? And so the conversation that you're going to hear is between two artificial intelligence uh, people, non-people, computers, whatever you want to call them. It is amazing. You can't tell that they're not human, actually. And then I put some images to it. So let's take this is about 8 minutes long, and I'll play this for to talk about.
Okay, so today we're going deep on Brown's gas. Have you heard of this stuff?
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff used
Yeah.
for welding and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. But apparently there's this whole other side to it. Like some people think it could be like a health revolution or something.
Really? Like what do they say it does?
Well, we actually dug up all this stuff from a guy named George Wiseman. He calls himself a Brown's gas expert, and he's got lectures, Q&As, all sorts of stuff.
And what's his take?
He is all in on this stuff. Claims it can boost your energy, make your scars disappear even.
Scars disappear. That's a bit out there, isn't it?
It does sound pretty out there, I know.
No.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg with this Wiseman character. He's got some pretty interesting ideas.
Like what?
So he's adamant that Brown's gas is not just hydrogen, which is interesting because he talks about how our bodies are full of hydrogen.
Right.
But he says it's this unique mix of hydrogen and oxygen. Oh, and something he calls electrically expanded water, or EXW for short. Ever heard of that?
EXW.
Me neither. But apparently, this EXW is what Wiseman believes is the magic ingredient. It's like the secret sauce that makes Brown's gas so special.
And what is this EXW exactly?
He describes it as negatively charged plasma water, packed with electrons he claims are super important for healing. Oh, and get this, he says inhaling Brown's gas for like 12 seconds is like drinking a whole liter of hydrogen-rich water.
Hold on. Negatively charged plasma water. That sounds a little science fiction-y, even for me.
Right. It's a lot to unpack. So, to try and wrap our heads around this whole EXW thing, imagine taking water and like supercharging it, zapping it with electricity. That's kind of what Wiseman seems to be getting at, although even he admits that figuring out how to actually measure this EXW is proving to be a challenge.
Interesting. So how does he explain its supposed benefits if they can't even measure it properly?
Well, he draws a comparison to something called EZ water, which stands for exclusion zone water. It's a concept explored by Professor Gerald Pollack. From what I gather, EZ water is basically water in a specific state where it's more structured, more organized. Imagine like regular water is a jumbled mess,
Yeah.
but EZ water is like perfectly arranged, almost crystalline.
Okay, I kind of get it. But what does this easy water have to do with Brown's gas?
That's the thing. Wiseman is suggesting that Brown's gas somehow creates this super organized, easy water in your body. And that's what leads to all these supposed amazing health benefits.
Interesting. And he has evidence to support this?
Well, he did show a jar of water during his lecture that he claims he never washes, and it had visible stuff floating in it. And he claimed that this was proof that Brown's gas was transforming the water into what he calls easy gel. While Pollack's work is certainly interesting, there's no real consensus on easy water and its health benefits. So Wiseman is basically taking this new idea and saying Brown's gas amplifies it, creates this super hydrating, health boosting wonder water. He starts talking about deuterium-depleted water, and even mentions something about Brown's gas causing transmutation.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it does feel like we stepped into an episode of Star Trek.
A bit, yeah. Even some of the people in his audience, like there was a chemist there, seemed a bit skeptical. They were asking some tough questions.
Which is good, right? We always want to hear from the skeptics. But despite this lack of, let's say, mainstream scientific backing, Wiseman is completely sold on Brown's gas. Paints Brown's gas as this revolutionary alternative. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we get totally caught up in the hype, we do need to address the elephant in the room. Or should we say the lie in the room? People have concerns about the safety of Brown's gas, right?
Right. There's that whole thing about lye being in Brown's gas.
Exactly. But Wiseman addresses this head-on, claims his machines produce pure Brown's gas, free of any nasty stuff. He even says he sent samples to labs for testing.
So he's trying to assure people that his Brown's gas is the good stuff, the pure stuff.
Oh, absolutely. He even went as far as to demonstrate inhaling the gas straight from his machine.
Now that's confidence for you.
Right. Although he does stress the importance of starting slow Jew, acknowledging that some people might get headaches or experience other reactions which he believes are just the body healing itself.
Interesting. It's like he's saying, don't worry if you feel a little off at first, it just means it's working.
And speaking of healing, Wiseman tells this funny story about how he was using an air gun with the wrong socket and ended up with a head injury. But here's the kicker. He uses this anecdote to illustrate the healing power of Brown's gas. Claims it made the scar from that incident practically disappear.
He's full of surprises, this Wiseman fellow. So he's not just a salesman, he's a believer.
Oh yeah. He claims he's been using Brown's gas himself, drinking the bubbled water since 2005, almost 20 years. And he says he hasn't been sick once since he started.
Not even a sniffle. That's quite the claim.
I know, right? He attributes this incredible health to drinking the water, and even more so to directly inhaling the gas, which he started doing in 2016. He says even his hair started growing back thicker and darker.
Sounds like he's found the fountain of youth powered by Brown's gas. But does he say how much Brown's gas he uses? I mean, inhaling it for 12 seconds doesn't sound like much.
Well, he does clarify that while he personally inhales the gas for something like 8 hours a day, often while he's working, he recommends starting slow and gradually increasing the dosage.
Which does seem like a responsible approach, especially since we don't have any long-term studies on the effects of inhaling Brown's gas just yet.
But it's important to remember that everyone is different. What works for one person might not work for another. And while Wiseman's eager to share his story, it's just that his experience, it's not exactly hard scientific evidence.
Right, we have to keep that in mind. So what other amazing things does Wiseman claim Brown's gas can do? He mentioned it can boost your energy and libido, even help with serious conditions like cancer.
Oh yeah, he did say all that. Let's start with his claims about energy levels. He believes that Brown's gas provides your body with a boost of readily available electrons, which in addition to aiding in healing, he says, can improve brain function and give you more energy. He even tells a story about an older gentleman at one of his lectures who went from being, in his words, zombie-like, to cracking jokes within minutes of inhaling Brown's gas.
Like some kind of cognitive jumpstart? Sounds impressive. But what about those other claims, like using Brown's gas with other therapies?
Yeah, some people in the audience were curious about that, like using it alongside hyperbaric oxygen therapy, for example. Like he talks about creating what he calls new water.
New water? What in the world is that? Is it like super water?
Well, according to Wiseman, new water has no memory and can be programmed for various purposes. He even hinted at it being used as fuel. He claims Brown's gas cleared up his psoriasis, his arthritis, even a heart murmur. The guy practically radiates Brown's gas-powered vitality.
And he attributes all these amazing results to drinking the bubbled water and to directly inhaling the gas. So with all this talk about Brown's gas, the big question remains, does it actually live up to the hype?
That's the million-dollar question. We've explored the science, or at least what we know of it, the claims, the anecdotes, even the business side of things. But what does it all mean for our listeners? Is Brown's gas this revolutionary health solution? Or is it just another example of wishful thinking?
That's for them to decide. We've presented the information, but it's up to each individual to weigh the evidence. Maybe do some additional research, talk to their doctor, and come to their own conclusions.
And we would never want to steer them wrong. And part of that is understanding that there are no guarantees.
Right. Wiseman might be convinced that Brown's gas is a miracle cure, but it's essential to approach these things with a healthy dose of caution.
Couldn't agree more. So to sum it all up, what are some key takeaways you'd like to leave our listeners with? We've covered a lot of ground here.
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that George Wiseman is clearly very passionate about Brown's gas. He genuinely believes in its potential to revolutionize health and wellness. And he's put a lot of time, energy, and money into developing his technology.
He's definitely not lacking in enthusiasm, that's for sure.
Exactly. However, enthusiasm alone isn't enough. We have to be able to separate the hype from the evidence. And while Wiseman provides some interesting anecdotes and makes some bold claims, there's still a lot we don't know about Brown's gas and its long-term effects.
It does seem like we're left with more questions than answers. On the one hand, we have Wiseman, who's this incredibly passionate advocate for Brown's gas, sharing all these amazing stories and bold claims.
And on the other hand, we're still waiting for that solid scientific evidence to back it all up. That's the tricky part with all of this.
It is, and it's easy to get swept up in the excitement, especially when you hear about people like Wiseman having such positive experiences.
It's important to remember that those are just that individual experiences. They might not be representative of everyone.
Right, like you were saying before, what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. And without rigorous scientific studies, it's almost impossible to say for sure what role, if any, Brown's gas played in those outcomes.
So it really comes down to being a savvy consumer, doing your own research.
Ask questions, think critically, and seek out evidence-based information.
And Wiseman does encourage people to do their own research, and one that should be made with careful consideration and ideally in consultation with a healthcare professional.
Couldn't agree more. It's your health, your body. You get to decide what you do with it.
Well said. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Brown's gas, what are your final thoughts for our listeners?
I think the main takeaway here is to be informed. Be an educated consumer, especially when it comes to your well-being. Don't be afraid to question things, to dig deeper, and to seek out evidence-based information.
It's all about finding that balance between being open to new possibilities and being grounded in solid evidence. And of course, consulting with qualified healthcare professionals who can offer personalized advice.
Exactly. It's about making informed decisions about your health and well-being.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating and often perplexing world of Brown's gas.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. Until next time, keep those minds curious, but always stay skeptical.
Okay. So, those voices were
Okay, so
Oops,
today
how do we
we
stop this thing? Um, those voices were all um, done by AI, and and the videos, of course, I put together with it. So none of those obviously were from George's talk, other than him talking, but kind of fun. So George, this was another Brown's gas device that was at the show, and so I specifically went to the Tesla conference to try to uh, find out more about the Brown's gas. That's really why I wanted to go, of course, and hang out with my friends. But so I saw this one and I thought, okay, cool, this is nice, very interesting. But I hadn't seen George's unit yet. But I thought, okay, so this is making Brown's gas. I talked to the people, and yeah, and it looked a little bit like a science experiment, but it was producing Brown's gas. This is George's unit, um, called the Aqua Cure, and in his talk, he talked about how his unit basically looked kind of more like this one, and then his current wife, his new wife, um, said, "Look, it looks like a science experiment. We need to kind of upgrade this." And so he came up with this design, which is actually converting. He said in his talk that he could buy an electrolyzer from China and convert it cheaper than he could build them from scratch. And so that's where the base unit comes from. And the tower thing here on the top is an extra. It just holds more water of the not actual water, but the uh, electrolyte solution. It's sodium hydroxide, and I do want to talk about that a little bit, because this is not something you just buy and you plug it in and start using. There is a little bit of you have to deal with a little bit of a science experiment still. All right, so it's like going to chemistry class. You have to mix or buy. You can buy the sodium hydroxide at 10%. I didn't. It was difficult to find, so I was mixing my own. Um, and so you have to be careful with it. It's another lye is another word for sodium hydroxide, although lye might have other stuff in it, so you don't want to use lye as such. You don't go to the hardware store and buy lye. You want to get 100% sodium hydroxide. And so you do have to mix that and put it in the machine, and so that's something that you want to think about. So his unit costs $2,499, which I have one of his units, and it's a very nice unit. It's excellent. I have to say he's done a great job, obviously, and he's selling hundreds and hundreds of these by now. He's all over the world. It's really caught on, and he can hardly keep up with it, which is great. So um, at the show, I did also meet another guy there that was building this one. He didn't come until the third day, and this one showed up, and I thought, wow, this is great. And so I talked to him about it, and yeah, he said George had come by his booth in the morning. I didn't get to talk with George. I figured he was going to hang out at the conference like most of them do, but he's so famous now, I guess, or popular. He had to run off to another meeting or another show or something right afterwards. So I didn't even get to talk to him. But the guy that built this, Tyrone, he said, "Oh yeah, George came by and checked out my unit and said, "Oh, this is nice. You're doing a great job." And they talked about the inside and outside and how he was doing it, and he was very impressed with it. And so this one was only 1695. Well, I thought, okay, great. Well, I needed two of them, right? I live in America and I live here in Bali. And George's unit, 2,500 bucks. It's a great unit. I love it. It stayed in America. I didn't want to take the risk of shipping that to Bali. So I shipped mine here, this one here, um, to Bali, and it came just fine. It handled it just fine. Everything arrived safely. I set it up, and it's working. So I'm working with Tyrone to help him market these things, and so right now until November 6th, we're going to have a special where you get $200 off if you use the code webinar 2024. That's what we're doing right now, the webinar 2024. Until the 6th of November, um, you'll get $200 off that price. So it'll only be $14.95, which is $1,000 less than the AquaCure price. I think, I think you can go wherever you want. I mean, I 100% support George and his work. And he does give a lifetime guarantee on it. So if anything breaks down on it, he'll fix it. He gives a 1 year guarantee of you can send it back. We only give a 30-day money back guarantee. So we do have a 30-day money back guarantee. If you're not happy with it, send it back. He gives a whole year. He said he's only gotten 1 in 1,000 back. So I think it's kind of useless to have such a long thing, but whatever. We give a 30-day money back guarantee on it. If you're not fully satisfied, we'll just send it back in like new condition. And as long as it's not all beat up, we'll give you your money back. I think we charge a 10 or 15% restocking fee to refurbish it. And that's at hho-health.com. And now I'm going to do a little demonstration of this for you guys. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm thinking you'll be able to see all of this, but I want to light up this torch because that's kind of fun. So let's see. I'm over here. We'll do it for about, I'll just do a short. This is a timer, so you can set it for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, or 4 hours, which is nice. I'll just do like a 30-minute. So I'm turning it on, and you will see right now I have the torch connected. And I'm going to light it up, and then we'll do the water bubbling. But I wanted to do this because this is fun. So it takes a minute for it to get going here. Come on, you can do this. I had it lit up last night. There we go. So you guys see that, right? So it's a little torch. You can weld with it, and that's turning water into flame. And again, I'm not silly enough to put my hand in it yet, but once somebody demonstrates it to me, and shows me that this is really possible, then I'll do it too. I'm not quite that brave. So anyway, that's the torch part of it. And so I'm gonna now disconnect that, and then I'll put in the bubbles. Whoa, yeah. We had the fire going. Should turn the fire off before that. Okay. That was a loud pop. So this is an explosive gas, as you can see. But once you bubble it through the water, then it turns it down to a 4%. Oh, we gotta get this off there first. A 4% level. When I was at the show, um, Tyrone was showing me how you could like if you take the bubbler off and you put a, lighter over those little bubbles will pop like that. That was a little louder pop, but it'll actually make little popping sounds because it's ignitable, just like it was with the torch. So now when it comes with one of these kinds of mask kind of things. I don't really like to do that, especially for a webinar. I prefer this kind, which you can get on Amazon or whatever. I think they cost about 50 cents or something. They're not very expensive, but I prefer this one. And so what I've been doing then is just while I'm sitting at the computer, I just turn on my machine and just bubble the gas while I'm working on the computer. And I that's kind of the idea that I got from George. He says he does that as well. And and uh yeah, it's just great. So that's what I've been doing. What have I noticed with it? I know that that's going to be one of the first questions. Um, Carotid. Oh, thank you. Somebody like carrots, like carrot, carotid. I'm reading through some of the comments. Um, Anyway, so what have I noticed with it? So one thing was the head stuff. The other thing is when I was in before we left to come to Bali, I was getting some eye irritation and my eye was itching and red. And so what I did was I just kind of let this blow. If you take the end off, it's actually easier. And I would just blow it on my eyes and that cleared up. I did that like maybe for 10 minutes twice, and it totally cleared up my eyes, which was really fun. The other thing I noticed a long time ago, like I can't say it's like 20 years ago, I used to have a problem with my ears where I had to constantly try to open them, like that. I would do that like maybe 100 times a day. I mean, literally that many times. Everybody was commenting on it, and I thought, well, I don't know, just they're not open, and then they would open. And and then I was at an SE5 seminar where Bob Beck was at. I was teaching an SE5 seminar, and Bob Beck came to it, and he had just invented his little ozone machine. And he said, "Oh, well, just blow some ozone in there," because he saw me doing this. And he said, "What's going on with your ears?" And so I blew the ozone in there, and that stopped it. Well, this kind of started again this summer, and it kind of crept up on me. I just noticed it. I'm like, oh, I'm opening my ears a lot. So instead of doing the ozone, I decided to try the Brown's gas, and so I put that in my ears, just blew it in my ears again for about 10 or 15 minutes on each ear, and did that maybe 3 times, and it totally cleared it up. So it seems to have some pretty quick uh, effects, but most of the effects that George talks about are, months. This is several month long kind of thing. You want to build up the hydrogen, especially over time in your body. So I've only had this. We've been back in Bali for just 1 month now. I had it for about a week before we took off, and it, or 2 weeks, I guess. It was in August, so yeah, it was about 2 weeks I had it at home, and I used it a few times, but then I packed this one up and sent it over here, and so I've been using it pretty much every day for, yeah, and he does say start slow, and I did notice I started with like 15 minutes breathing it at first. And I did notice I thought I was getting a little bit of a headache from it, so then I would stop a few days and then I started it again. So he does say build up slowly. So I do it for about an hour. I'd say an hour a day now. Not having any more headaches or anything. But he does mention that that's possible and it's a detoxing effect. But I've been using this one for just about a month. This one has a counter. I've used this one 17 hours, just so you can actually keep track of it. It shows you how many hours you've been using it. It's got an amp meter in it. It's got a level meter for your water to show you how high your water line is. And I just filled it up. I just did a video on how to mix the sodium hydroxide, and I'll send a link to that around in my next newsletter for the replay for everybody, so you can watch that video as well. How to set it up, and I did one of mixing. So again, it's not. It's not like the brain tuner, Bob Beck's brain tuner kind of thing. This is a soda one, but that Bob Beck invented. This is kind of like, you clip it on and turn it on. Okay, it's really great. I love it for what it does, which is, you know, if you guys don't know about cranial electrical stimulation, I do have a lecture on that too. Bob Beck's invention of anxiety, depression, drug addiction. We've even used it with anorexia, bulimia people, a whole group of them. I don't know if you know this, but anorexia, bulimia people. Okay, I'll just do a short talk on that. Um, but what it does is it gets the brain to start producing its own neural um, beta endorphins again and other neurotransmitters. Oh, there he is. Yeah, Rich just held up his his brain tuner, BioTuner. Great, awesome, um, wonderful thing. But anorexia, bulimia people, what we figured out, or we guessed at it, we just guessed at it. We got a call once because we used to sell these all the time back in the day when Bob was making them by hand. Um, and we got a call. There was a group of people that were anorexia bulimia um, group, a user, support group. And I think there were 20 of them, and there were around 20 people. And they would meet every week and discuss things. And I don't remember, Ilona talked with them, and she said, well, I think you guys should try the brain tuner. I think what's happening is that when you eat your food and then you throw it up, you get a burst of beta endorphins and you've gotten addicted to them. That's what she think. That was her thinking, right? So we sent them a brain tuner and they all used it. They traded it around and they used it every day. And after 30 days, they disbanded the group. All of them were healed 100%. And we were like, oh my goodness, this needs to be out there in the world. But how do you tell people that kind of stuff? Anyway, so that's the brain tuner. You get it, you put it on, you turn it on, and it just works, right? There's nothing to it. This is a little bit more like a science experiment. You got to put on your rubber gloves, put on your eye protection when you're mixing the sodium hydroxide. Be careful with it. Don't spill it on stuff. It's a little bit more hands-on. Let's put it that way. So it's not for the totally faint-hearted. If you're not, you know, it's got amazing benefits, right? I mean, from what everything George says and what I've experienced, it's phenomenal, phenomenal. But, uh, but you have to work at it a little bit and take care with it. So, yeah. So, does anyone have any questions at this point? Um, I will put that website back up there one more time. And not the Zoom link. There we go. Um, so that's the website, and I've just created a very small little website with some videos and how-tos and uh, just to kind of get this to help you guys out to learn how to use it and mix the stuff and set it up and everything. But hho.health or -health.com, and yeah, save $1,000. I think, again, you know, George's stuff is great. It's just more expensive. And he's got it's a big business now. This is a little inventor. He can produce about 10 of these a day, which he's just totally excited about that these that we met together and hit it off. And I said, look, I'll help you move some of these because I think you're doing a great job. And George thought he was doing a great job. And it's a great machine. It just is very solid. Um, this one you fill up with distilled water, and this one you fill up with distilled water, and this one you use normal spring water, and then you drink it. So I'm going to go ahead and drink my water right now. I normally like to charge it up a little bit longer, like half an hour. And cheers. It's awesome. It doesn't really taste, but it has a little bit of flavor. Also, when you make it, you basically, this stuff dissipates quickly, right? So it's not something you want to store. You could put it in a bottle and cap it and then drink it all day, but I like to make it and then just drink it down. and it's super hydrating. You know, what I've noticed with this, I drink that whole glass of water, and you'd think like in 10 minutes I'd have to run to the bathroom. You don't. It actually absorbs in the body. I I don't even notice it. Like it's like you haven't even drank water because it goes in and absorbs into the system. It doesn't just flush through. That's my personal experience anyway. So let me get back to my let's see, chat. If you guys have any questions, let's see. There's a website, Akicure Store. Great, awesome. Somebody put in uh, George's link in there. Um, I have no connection to him either, um, but I certainly his website isn't loading. It's dot not life. It's not eagleresearch.life. It is eagleresearch.info, I think is what it is. Let me get this back down here. I think his website was .info.
You want me to put the soda link in also if you want,
Oh,
John?
sure. Yeah, yeah. You can put the soda link in. Um, where did I have George's website? There we go. Eagle Research. No, it's .com. It says eagle-research.com. I thought it was info for some reason. But yeah, that I can put that one in here. I have it up on my.
Pasted the Eagle Research one already in there for you for the brown
Okay.
gas.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Rich. Awesome. Um, let's see if there's other stuff going on in here. Oh, I see. I have to scroll down. Thank you, Donna. It was amazing. You do look younger, Don. Oh boy, Robert, when did you see me last? It's been how? Okay, in the last month, I've gotten younger. That's good. Okay. Um, your body produces easy water at the mitochondrial level. Okay, great. Oh, you guys are, I just love how informed all of you guys are. I mean, I just have the most amazing um, people in my network that is just phenomenal. Where can you get a brain tuner? Yes, at Soda. Now, I still have an affiliate link for them or something where they pay me a few dollars. So I'll send that around in the newsletter if I can find my code. So if you order from their website with my code, I know they used to send me money. Um, I love my
Yeah,
aqua cleaner. Oh, Joel
I
has
put the
one.
one in, so I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't sure if you had a link or not. So
I
that's the
do
only one I.
somewhere, yeah. I should have been prepared on it. I wasn't going to talk about the brain tuner, but I love it. I use it all the time. I mean, I do. Um, I use all my stuff. Oh, cesultra.com. Oh, you know, we actually do sell the CES Ultra as well. That's my good friend Richard Dobb. And yeah, that's and Richard, he'll drop ship for me. The thing about the soda, we used to ship them from our office for, until just the summer. I don't know if you guys know this, but Beth in my office worked there for 15 years, and she has gone on to a full-time job where we only had a part-time job for her. And she worked for, yeah, 15 years for us. And so we've actually uh, shifted everything around to where we're not actually having somebody in the office to take care of all these little things. So I'm kind of doing the back end work, and then we have somebody just shipping stuff once a week, but I can't ship all these little things like brain tuners. But Richard will ship the CES Ultra. Maybe I'll send all that information around. Um, anything else? Water, you guys are great. Well, I don't want this to go on forever. I was hoping to do this within an hour or so, but it looks like we've uh oh, somebody met George at a cannabis conference in Toronto about a decade ago, way before the present craze. It is a craze, I must say. It was the last booth I checked out. He gave a great overview of brown can, interesting, and that Dr. Circus from Brazil, who works on cancer, uses his unit. Right. There was something he did mention that there's a clinic in California, I think, as well. If I remember right, it was in California, but maybe in Brazil. They're using his instruments. He's quite a bit of them with great results. Do you know if the BioArc disk increases the amount of hydrogen? I don't have a way to test hydrogen. That would be an interesting question. Yeah. The BioArc disk, she was talking about this little disk. And I don't know if you guys know, but I've onloaded or offloaded all these little products like BioArc disks um, and the Qi organizers and all that to Phoenix Aurelius, which maybe I should send all these links around to everybody since everybody's uh, kind of. Do you sell a portable unit? Which one? Soda. Uh, I liked Beth. Do you sell a portable unit of the HHO? This is the portable unit. Okay. This is about as small as you're going to get it. It's just quite an ordeal. So, um, uh, send the links. Okay. All right. So, where's www.hho.hell.com. You're right. Should always do that kind of thing. There you go. That's easier than typing it in. And so, yeah, I did create this little website, and it's very simple. It's just really, I'm just kind of trying to help Tyrone get this off the ground because he's a great inventor. The guy's super intelligent. I mean, he's a really good engineer. And yeah, um, okay, I'll be totally transparent at this point. One of the reasons that I went to the Tesla conference is I was kind of thinking, you know, someday I'm going to need another engineer to help build the SE5s. My engineer is phenomenal, but he's getting up there. He's 76 or 77. You know, in another 5 or 10 years, I'm probably going to need somebody. And so I was out scouting for engineers as well, um, to possibly take over in the future. It's not anytime soon, but you know, I just putting my feelers out there for somebody to, because I want the SE5 to go on for a very long time. If it, you guys, I don't know, there are a lot of people here that don't know what the SE5 is, but I'll uh, just this is the SE5 2000, and this is my main product. This is what I do. I teach people how to do this stuff. And yeah, Richard's clapping his hands. A lot of you guys have them. Richard, Christopher, yes, you guys are all SE5 users. I know. Um, Next month, just so you know, next month for you guys, the SE5 users, I have some major announcements coming for the SE5. Phenomenal stuff. I mean, I'm getting my hair is literally standing up on my arms. I've been doing some amazing research, and I think it's really going to benefit all of you guys. Just amazing stuff. I mean, it's mind blowing, but I'm not there yet. I mean, I'm using it, but I'm not quite there yet. I have to do a little bit more research, but it's phenomenal stuff. So I'll get that. That'll definitely be next month. No cliffhanger. Yes, of course. Yes, it is. It's really exciting stuff. Anyway, I'm going to bring this to a close. Thank you guys for coming. And yeah, right. You got to have a cliffhanger, right? That's right. That's what makes all this stuff work. It's been a very big pleasure having everybody here. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that, and uh, and we'll see you guys. I mean, I might make it open to the public, but for sure, I've got one just for SE5 users. I'll do definitely a webinar on that, and then I might do a webinar for general people because we have some more fun things in the pipeline as well. But for SE5 users, I'll need to do a special webinar just for you guys. So. All right. Well, thanks for hanging in there, all of you that have been in here so long, and most everybody stayed. That's awesome. Till next time, as we say in Bali, sampai jumpa.